Well, welcome everybody. I'm not in a suit today. It's a Thursday afternoon in the New Orleans area, and it's hot as hell.
Yeah,
right.
it is.
And so I've been looking forward to having my friend Chris Stevenson on the pod. Chris, it's awesome to have you spend a couple days with the family and just talking business. And thanks for being here, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And
Yeah.
we've talked about it forever. So finally, the fact that I got to come to the Overwork compound and spend a few days and just get away, it's been
I
fantastic.
got to cook him dinner last night, which I love cooking for people. And so we had a little fresh fish from our neighbor, which was great snapper.
Unbelievable.
We had fresh shrimp from the Gulf that was just caught, and we had a little boudin too. Don't hold us hostage for that fitness community. We only had a little bit.
Yeah.
But a nice salad.
Yeah, it felt very Louisiana.
Yeah,
It felt very special.
Had to give you a little of that flavor, but for those of you that don't know Chris, and we're going to get into a little bit of his career, I had the opportunity and privilege to serve with Chris on at the time the URSA board, now HFA's board, and we got to know each other fairly well. And I've always had deep respect for you and your colleague Marissa and others that you work with. And so I'm really happy to talk with you today. Tell the folks a little bit about how you got into the fitness space in general.
Yeah, you know what? It's an interesting journey because I've kind of been through every single role. So it's been a diverse experience that I'm grateful for. But I, after college, moved to the West Coast from Ohio, and I was a stuntman. I did stunts for several years, and was looking for a more stable job because obviously with stunts you get pretty banged up, and it's got a lifespan.
Yeah.
So I started teaching group exercise at a local health club. And then I started personal training. So literally those frontline roles, working directly with the people that we serve, and that was very cool. And at that point I was like, I think I like this industry. I like what we do for people. I like seeing the results that they get. And it wasn't just the physical change, it was the happiness, the social environments. And it's just, we're one of those rare industries that has the opportunity to change people for the better. And I think that's a pretty powerful thing. So from there, took on several other roles throughout the process. At different clubs, whether it was teaching, working in sales, those sort of roles. And then I went clinical for a little while at the Chiropractic Sports Institute in Southern California. So I did injury rehab and I trained athletes. So that was kind of an interesting experience because it was sort of commercial fitness and now having that diverse experience. And I did some corporate work as well. But at that point I realized I think I want to do my own thing. And I approached the owner of the Chiropractic Sports Institute and I said, I've outgrown this role. I appreciate everything. It's time to move on. He said, what if you subleased my clinic and you built your own practice there? And so that was sort of my first foray into being an entrepreneur and doing something on my own. Quickly outgrew that and opened up a personal training only studio, small studio, equipment on the outside, open space on the inside, had a staff of 6 people. And it was funny. It was a studio model before studios were cool, because I couldn't afford anything more. But I always tell people I was on the cutting edge of inventing studios, which is not true. It literally was I only have this much money and this is what I can afford.
Necessity's the mother of invention, right?
Yeah, and that was a very successful business, very experience driven, which we've run all our businesses that way. From there, we had an investment group approach us about, I always joke, we moved across the street literally to another plaza, but they had a huge plaza that was empty and said, would you be interested in, building out a full club? And I said, sure. And so that was the big step into then, having the full service club. I will tell you, in my naivety early on, I was like, oh, how hard can it be? We already train people. We're just adding a classroom and a bathroom and can't be that hard. Well, it was hard. And you mentioned Marissa earlier. That's where I met Marissa. She had helped us at our small studio. Kind of a funny story. You'll appreciate it because you know her.
Yeah.
She came in as a client and said, I love what you guys do here. The energy, the training, it's all fantastic, but man, your merchandise is awful. And your bookkeeping systems are so bad. And your marketing, and I can help with that. And she did. So we had, we kind of had the good service down, and she came in and fixed everything. So when we had the opportunity to expand, she was interested in the general manager position, which I was so grateful for because she's so skilled. So she ran that club. So for 20 years, we owned and operated those clubs, very much on the customer service side of it, to the point where you start getting invited, like yourself, to speak at different events. And throughout that process, ended up building a consulting company, which has been exciting. And then we, exited the brick and mortar space right before COVID, which was very fortunate, and have since just moved into full on, supporting other organizations.
Yeah, and Marissa, shout out. I'm gonna have you on soon, I hope, if you'll let me twist your arm. And so now I see that you're keynoting at Athletic Business in the coming months, which congratulations on that. You've done a lot of speaking. And I know over the period of years, you've also kind of built a niche in the Parks and Recs arena. And I know you're doing a lot of consultative and advisory work with different fitness operations. What are some of the things you see in your world when it comes to that? Because you're on the ground a lot with real operators. I know when you were here in the last day, you had several calls with folks. And I have calls too with folks, but my world's a little different than what you focus on. So what are some of the things that you see and you hear?
I don't know that I don't want to make it sound too remedial, but you got to acquire members and you got to keep your members. And while keeping members has always been important, I think it's more important now because as you've seen, the competition is more vast than it's ever been. And we're talking about not just physical studios and physical facilities. We're talking about, apps, and we're talking about in-home solutions, and we're talking about people now just being more comfortable training outdoors. So while those two things are still the fundamental, things that have to happen for you to be a success, whether, you're a JCC, a YMCA, which we work with, park and recreation, rec centers, commercial fitness studio, it doesn't matter. You got to get people and you got to keep people. And I always, especially when I present and speak, I always talk about the keys to success are really the 3 R's. It's revenue, retention, and referrals. So I think that's what everybody struggles with and has to address. But I think, as much as the industry's changed, the fundamental business model has not changed. It is what it is. And get them, make them happy, keep them, and get them to send you more people. And that's sort of the formula for success, no matter what your model is.
And we were talking earlier about the concept of folks not often wanting to hear advice from people that have been through this today. Do you think, and so what I mean by that for the audience is that, and Chris isn't the only person I talked to about this, when you've done it, and I've had a lot of experience, doesn't mean you're right, but about everything, but today, do you think it's a function of FOMO or people looking for shortcuts, or they tend to shy away from very fundamental things? What do you, because it seems harder to help people a lot of times because they, but that's me. What is your
that's such an insightful question, and I think there are layers to it. I'll give you a specific example, right? When we work with organizations, so let's say, for example, there's an organization we're working with right now as we're building the pro forma. When you build your own pro forma, a lot of people, because it's such an emotional industry, and truly a lot of great people are getting involved that are passionate, they want to help people.
That's right.
So they build a pro forma that works. Which doesn't mean it's real.
That's a bad idea.
So as we were talking to this one client we were working with, they were stunned when they saw us in our CapEx number, projections, and they were like, oh, and we're like, listen, this is reality, right? So I think there is, it's funny because I've never really thought about the question the way you just asked it, but I think it really is, you've got an industry that is fun, energetic, personality driven, physical, you help people change. So there's such a strong emotion and passion behind it that it's very easy to, whether consciously or oftentimes probably subconsciously, kind of push reality to the side and be like, we'll make it work. So I think there's probably that psychological detachment and that subconscious, I want it to work so bad that I'm willing to do that. And that's where, to your point of like not listening sometimes to the advice, sometimes I think people, even if it's well-intended, seek affirmation as opposed to information, right? And that's one thing we pride ourselves on when we do help people is we're always straightforward and honest.
I'm the same way.
And that's one of the things I learned from you actually on the board is the more straightforward you can be out of the gate, don't need to sugarcoat it.
Some people take it wrong. I've been told things in the, and listen, if I was getting brain surgery and I went to see a brain surgeon, do you think I'd ask the question of exactly how are you going to do this and make notes so I can go home and try it there? I mean, but anyway, it's up to you. So another question is Parks and Rec. So years ago, I got to speak to some. We sold some Parks and Recs in the day when I was with my partner was distributing Les Mills programming. What do you see? Because there's a lot of people that a lot of people are reached through Parks and Recs. We have a great Parks and Recs, the Pelican down the way. What are some of the things you hear there in that realm?
So I will tell you what's interesting. The difference between that and commercial is commercial can get very niche. They can make decisions based on financials purely. This is a profitable program. We'll do this. This we don't think is gonna make money. We won't do that. So childcare is a great example. We see facilities all over the place that are closing childcares. Now that does stink for parents that need it. However, if it's not hitting the budget, then they realize that space can be allocated for something that'll generate revenue. They make those changes. So I think one of the unique challenges to Parks and Rec, and sometimes I think also with nonprofits, is they literally have to serve everyone. So regardless of whether or not it's generating revenue, and with nonprofits with park and recreation, there's still, it's no margin, no mission. Right, you've got to generate revenue. A lot of these facilities we see have to be self-funded, so it is one of those things. I think that's one of the biggest challenges is they have to have children's programming, they have to have teen programming, they have to have senior programming, and they've got to have it in all these different ways, and they've got to really be accommodating to everyone, which is not a bad thing, right? They're here to serve communities, but it's a challenge. I mean, it's so much easier when you can get niche and put all your energy and focus and make decisions purely financial. But here, there's a lot more, I think, to navigate. And that's, for me, as someone who works with different organizations in Park and Rec, I love the challenge, but it's definitely a challenge.
And it's also these communities who see wellness and fitness and recreation as being a central part of their communities. I think it's just rising tides lift all boats.
Agreed.
What you look at in Parks and Rec 10 years ago, when I was, is very different than today. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Completely.
Yeah. And it changes by geography. I know in Colorado, where my oldest son lives, in that area, they have community centers that are unbelievable. I know there are you get, so here it's not so much, but they're nice. But other places, they're full on facilities with everything under the sun, moon, and stars.
We have been supporting a rec center in Sacramento called Core, and it's unbelievable. Like I think they would joke, they're like, this ain't your mama's rec center,
right?
But it 3 studios, small group training, beautiful, ridiculous facility, but it's still different than commercial facilities from the standpoint of, but even though it looks and it feels like a commercial facility, they're still serving people that commercial facilities would never serve. They're allocating time and space for different groups that would never go to so it's still different, even though at the surface. However, they still need to operate in certain ways. Like I said, no mission, no margin.
Right, and they have different funding schemes. Like, so part of it, I know with my son, there's I think a municipality charges so much, and there's all kind of economics behind it, but that's a very interesting niche. And then you're also working, I know, with Jared and their group, Greg and some others doing some different things there. Tell me about that.
So it's pretty cool. Kind of like, I've known Bryan forever. He's been a mentor and a great friend and colleague for years. So even when we open this, I'm not kidding. I've been trying to get here to visit forever. This has been amazing.
It's great to see you.
Fantastic host. I'm going to give it 5 stars on that.
Well, for those who've been, they know.
Yeah, they know. Yeah, some of you are aware.
Good wine.
Great wine. So what was interesting is Jared's another guy that I've known for years, and great guy, super knowledgeable, super successful, and it's one of those where you talk to somebody about working together, and it's been a conversation we've had for years, and finally hit a point where it all made sense to do so. Because sometimes with consulting, it's a little bit lonely, and everybody's got their own clients, and you're sort of kind of trying to fight for the same clients, but we realized if we work together, we can expand everything as opposed to trying to do things solo. What's the saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with other people. But it's been awesome to work with him and the team, and we've got some really exciting projects. So it's fun, right?
Well, listen, so for that you all know this, obviously there'll be links in the show notes. So if you want to get in touch with Chris and learn more about what he can do for you, it'll be there for you to see. So technology, of course, we always have to talk a little bit about tech. We were talking, I think yesterday and today about, member management systems, what's going on in the tech space from a business perspective. We were talking a little bit about apps, and the user experience around that. And you've been in the business for a while now. What do you, when you're on the ground and dealing with different people, what are some of the things you hear about technology? What do you see?
Well, obviously the biggest thing right now is AI, right? I mean, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's using AI to some extent. If you're not, you need to be. We have I was on a webinar. I don't remember who the panelist was, but it was geared towards personal trainers. And one of the attendees had said something like, AI is going to replace us. And the panelist, I wish I could remember who it was, said, no, but trainers who learn to use AI effectively are going to replace you. So, AI is that hot button right now. I know we utilize it a lot. It's definitely one of the things we had talked about is garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't replace knowledge, but it enhances it, and you still got to know how to leverage it. I think one of the most powerful things with some of our smaller clients that we work with is AI is sort of that tool that helps you compete with chains that have unlimited budgets and marketing teams and departments, and you're running a skeleton crew. When you utilize those tools effectively, it helps level that playing field a little bit. So I think, again, investing the time and energy into learning to use that. The other thing I will tell you is, and with all the variety of clients and the different spaces that we work with, every day you go online, you see something new, and this now solves all the problems in the world, and you've got to have this piece of tech and this, and we have calls with people that are launching new products and new tech products, and they want our opinions on them and things like that. That's just going to continue to happen and develop. You know how easy it is to make an app? Marissa's husband actually was bored and made an app on how to track his workouts better at the gym, and he just did it on his computer and sent it to the Apple Store. And so anybody can make an app, right? But we're going to continue to be bombarded with like the new next best piece of technology. But as you and I've talked about before, what I would challenge everybody to do is, does it solve a problem, a real problem? Does it really solve a problem? Like if you're running a club, a membership management system solves a problem. Like you have to have it, right? Now there's a bunch to choose from, but you have to have it. So certain things you have to have, but don't jump on the tech bandwagon to jump on the tech bandwagon. Yeah. Figure out. I remember even, and this is a little dated because it's been a few years since we've had our clubs, but we had an app from our equipment provider. We had our own app for the place. We had the MyZone app. And all of a sudden we were like, there are like 6 apps that we're trying to get, and nothing. So we had to figure out, are there any that really do solve a problem? Right. Which means either helping us acquire members, keep members happy and engaged. And then we figured out what we should keep, right? So I think that'd be my biggest challenge is you're going to be bombarded by all sorts of things, that the new shiny objects that look cool, that feel cool, but figure out, does it solve a problem that you have? Does it really solve a problem that you have? Then it's worth taking the time to look at, invest. And if you do take something, implement it. Yeah. Like MyZone's a great example. We used MyZone. I have a lot of friends that, MyZone. I know a lot of the team members that are great people, love MyZone. But the facilities that are successful in MyZone have strategic implementation of that technology. Right? You can't just buy it, hope you sell some belts and watches and whatever. It just doesn't work that way. So whatever you do, does it solve a problem? If it does, strategically implement it so that it's actually useful. Yeah, and there's an opportunity cost to that as well. Because if you haven't worked on very fundamental things and you're worried about this here, you're really, probably digging yourself a deep hole. 100%. Yeah. I think that, and then also, this is probably selfish because it's one of my favorite things to talk about and present on and everything, but the customer experience matters. So you want to use tools that do help streamline things and help you run on a leaner staff and enhance the member experience, but that combined with that solid human interaction where you actually care and you actually take care of people and you create these experiences that they really are going to have a hard time getting at competitors, that's what makes the real difference. That's my little plug, because well, it's doing that is hard. Yeah. And a lot of people, I think they get maybe impatient with it, because to execute at that kind of a high level, you have to be very disciplined at working on a key set of things all the time. You're turning staff over, it has to be part of your DNA, and that is a lot harder than going yes to this next little tool that's supposed to, if you're very, very good at executing, the technology becomes an enabler. Yes. Trying to do too much of it, it's often met with the outcome you don't hope for. 100%, and to your point too, implement through small steps. And just focus on one thing at a time, and once that's solid, move on to the next. And, but people, to your point, don't have the patience sometimes. Patience is a real, trust and patience are the two most valuable commodities in the world today. So I always ask this of our guests that come on the show, and again, thanks for being here. Oh, my pleasure. Some pearls of wisdom. So from stunt man to trainer to entrepreneur owner to now advisor and doing lots of things. Are there a couple of disciplines or kind of philosophies you've adopted over time, and what are the things that you might share with some people who are aspiring or want to reconsider their efforts today? You know what? I would say the first thing, and this is crucial, is authenticity. And like culture is such a buzzword. You know, you're a culture fit, you're a culture ad, culture and mission, vision, values. But I think organizations that take that seriously and really develop them the right way and live by those things, they end up being guiding principles for organizations. And I think that's really key. And I can tell you, you know, I've had successes throughout the years, I've had failures throughout the years, probably learn more from the failures than you do from the successes, but that was one thing we did right. We created a culture where every single staff member, okay, that's never fair, 98% of our staff members could recite the vision, the mission, the values. They knew what they meant, they were actionable, and they really helped us create the organization that we created that was so successful. So I think taking the time to, you know, if you're just starting out, that should be your first step. You know, why are you really doing this? Do you really want to do this? Yeah. Are you doing this because you feel pressure from other people, or it sounds good, or you think you might make some bucks? Or is this really what you want to do, right? So I think creating an authentic culture that then really truly is infused into your organization and drives decision making and drives behavior, not because you had to fill it out in a business plan because it's a vision of, I help people get healthy, and mission to provide the best classes and training. You know, it's not that. It's really going through all the, you know, and there's a bunch of different approaches to create those things, as you know. But I would say, you know, that would be one. And you know, one thing is just be authentic and infuse that culture into your organization and everything you do. You know, the other thing, and we may have chatted about this too, I think one of the mantras that I live by is appreciate progress, but recognize an increased sense of potential, right? A lot of people in our industry, we're so type A driven, to your point, we lack the patience and we're always, what's next and how do we, which is important. But you gotta take those moments to be like, but look what we've done. And because that's life, right? If you're always just, because the goalposts will always move. You have one successful club, you want two. You know, you're always growing, so you never really hit that final point. So I think just realizing, man, we've done a good job, and because of that good job, now we can do even more. So I think that's just a personal thing for people.
Do you think that flies in the face of all the industry rags that are posting around? This company sold for X billions, that company, where, and again, not taking anything away from people that are profiting, but you know, I find that the culture thing is really a symptom of the ownership. Are they good, balanced people? Yeah. I mean, you know, and you know, but you know, do they lie? Yeah. Like, do they really care? Yeah. Is it just all rhetoric? Do they think people are slaves and do they really have a sense of win-win? Do they really believe in the long term? Do they have a capacity? I mean, does it come down to just that kind of stuff, or is that overly?
No, I think it does, and somewhere along the line I either read this or heard this, but it was like good profits and bad profits, and that mentality where you're not authentic can lead to some bad profits where you will make money maybe a little bit quicker, but you don't have the long-term sustainability.
There are plenty of examples of that in the recent past. I'm not naming names, but
we'll name it as soon as we stop recording. Yeah. That's when he brings out the good wine, that's when we do that.
But no judgment. I mean, but really asking yourself, because people bring up authenticity all the time. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Yeah. What does that really mean? Right. I mean, well, because are you really going to be that authentic if your value system is something you don't want to advertise on television?
Correct. It's funny. So our mission statement at our club was everybody leaves feeling better than when they arrived.
That's.
And we would base every decision. So if we had an issue with a member, even if we were in the right in certain ways, or it was I'm trying to think of a tangible example, but we would say, the way we handle this, will that member leave feeling better than when they arrived? And we would have manager meetings. And we'd be like, okay, this will allow us to do that. So we truly did live it. I'm proud of that. Like, because it's hard. Because there are times you like do not want to live by your mission, but we did. Sure. And that stood for our staff too. Yeah. Every staff member, every shift should leave feeling better when they arrived. Yeah. So as managers, we knew to check in. How are you doing? Not just here's 5 things. Make sure you do it. You know, it was true, authentic leadership. But you know, it's so funny. Some of these things, and by the way, they're easy to say.
Yeah, right? Hard to do.
Be authentic.
Very hard to do.
We're all tempted at times to stray, but if you can really nail it, you're going to make a massive difference in that long-term success. Yeah,
and if you're authentic, people are going to make mistakes.
Correct.
And that's just being honest about it and go, listen, this is a boo-boo on my part. Yeah. I didn't act in the way I should have. It's just part of a learning. But I think it's an important distinction today when people throw those words around. Yeah. And what it really means, because I've been a business owner. I've made payroll. You have too. Oh, yeah. You deal with partners and other things, and it's always a challenge because your character's tested, and you have to do the right thing. Yep. You know, and that's really how you create a great culture.
Yeah, and I think you can. I mean, obviously, you do have financial responsibilities,
Yeah,
fiduciary duties, and you have to hit those, but that doesn't mean you have to compromise on your values if you're really saying our company stand, because the best way to destroy a culture is say it's one thing and do another.
Oh yeah,
That's how you destroy a culture.
that's right. That's where hypocrisy becomes the operative. So, well, Chris, listen, you know, anybody looking for help in their club operations, in their Parks and Recs organization, anyone needs a great speaker, you know, be looking for him at Athletic Business. Chris, I highly recommend him. He's been a great friend, and he really talks the walk, walks the talk.
I'll do both.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for being here. Check out the show note links to connect with him, and it was a great pleasure,
my
my friend.
pleasure.
Thanks for being here, man.
Of course, brother.
Cheers. Let's see how I came out.
Well, that was easy.
That was
You make
easy.
it so easy. You have like that PM DJ
It's
voice.
a conversation, you know. That's all.
We're here at 7 p.m.
25